Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with the one and only Coach Xavier Miller heading into Christmas and the new year. Forward to talking boxing with Xavier. Xavier, first of all, see you got Seconds Out in the background. Appreciate the quick plug there. How you doing?
Oh yeah. Just catching up on this the press conference. This card just looks amazing. One of the best I've seen in years. It's just can't wait. Looking forward to it. I'm going to go down and watch it and at Tiger Bay in Kingsbury. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it indeed, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the work doesn't stop for you, even though we're ramping into the festive and holiday season. You're very busy at work. What's in the pipeline?
Yeah, Bilal Fawaz, finally got his chance to fight for a title. Um, did that cut? Did that okay?
I got you. Don't worry. You're
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Bilal Fawaz finally got his chance to fight for a title. Everyone knows the history of Bilal. The difficulties he's had getting his license and so on and so forth. So, yeah, late call. We had about 4.5 weeks' notice. Liam Wells dropped out for a Southern Era belt. It was a higher weight. I called Bilal. I said, Bilal, got a chance at middleweight to go for a title. It's in about 4 weeks' time. Do you want to take it? He said yes straight away. Steve Goodwin done a great job. He's signed to Steve, and he went on and won the title. In some difficult circumstances. I mean, obviously, not a long training camp for a 10 rounder, and he had a very, very bad cold Wednesday, Thursday. So the day before the weigh-in, he had a really bad cold. It's the kind of cold that if your boxers are going to get it, you want them to get it like 2 weeks before their fight, so they get enough time to recover and get back to training. He never really got that chance, but took a load of medication in the morning and then he just got on with it. And he boxed to the best of his ability, and I think he won 97, 94. So yeah, really happy for Bilal. I mean, he's been waiting so long for an opportunity. He took it. So hopefully now we can move him on to English level. But looking forward to what Bilal can do next year. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about him. He's I think won the ABAs a couple of times. Box Cup gold 3 times. So you'd expect him to win domestic titles. So yeah, I'm glad he got the chance, and yeah, looking forward to his career next year. Also got Alfie Clegg. I think this will be maybe my second or third fight with him. He's going to go for an IBO, a youth IBO world title. That should be mid-Feb. Really looking forward to that one, and then we'll kick on from there. Probably start looking at some domestic titles. Late in the year. I've also got Youssef Kamari. Obviously, he's now at lightweight. Struggled badly to make the weight in his last fight. It's the first time he couldn't really perform. He made it clear before when he walked back after the 12th round, or I think it was the 10th round, back to the corner when the fight had finished. He said, "I can't do that weight anymore." So he's moved up to lightweight, and he'll be looking for another title opportunity. He just had a good performance on a Steve Goodwin show couple of weeks ago. So yeah, Steve will be looking forward to try and get him into some form of a title. Also got the return of Kay Prosper, who hasn't boxed for 2 years. His last fight was against Sandor Martin. We all know what he went on to do. So Kay's coming back in March, probably 6 rounder. And then Steve Goodwin will probably be looking for some kind of a title for Kay as well. He didn't want to end his career on that last fight. He thinks he can do a lot better. And yeah, I'm fully behind him, and I'm looking forward to his return. Also got Jesse Brandon, who signed to Wasserman. Great KO early in the year. Another run out 4 rounder in Edinburgh a couple of months back. And he should be back out in February, March, hopefully. Great talent. Looking forward to him. Got the Kayani brothers, Kasim, Amar. Amar's had 8 fights now. Kasim had his pro debut this year. Ernest Warchek had his debut on a Goodwin show a couple of months ago. It's just really busy. I have to actually have a quick look, so if I've missed anybody. Yeah, I think I've basically covered everybody that's current at the moment. Obviously, my heavyweight is injured at the moment, but he'll be back out probably June. I've already described him as a Albanian Andy Ruiz. He's that skillful. So he's had his debut. Really looking forward to him. He's going to make a lot of noise. And if he hadn't been injured, he'd probably be looking at a Southern Era kind of fight, probably March, April. But slightly delayed. He'll be back in a while. But at the moment, the gym is, since I've come back, obviously I had to run the gym again full time. Everything's going really, really well. back to where we were, building up my fighters again, and obviously starting in with some of them in their debut. But yeah, I'm really like this year's been at IQ Boxing Club, even the amateurs. It's been outstanding.
Outstanding indeed, and you're very, very busy indeed. I wonder how you keep so trim in such a busy year. It must be all the sparring that you're doing. How are you getting on? Are you doing any sparring? You got any targets in mind?
Yeah, you know, I actually still like to spar sometimes. Nothing too crazy. Sometimes I do a little technical spar, a little body spar, or if someone talks too much, then we'll do a full spar. But yeah, it's all for fun. But yeah, I would love to entertain the idea of maybe doing, maybe a fight with another coach who's in and around my age, like 50 plus. I'm 50 now, so yeah, I would love to do a move around with another coach. Yeah, I'd like to have a go with John Fury. Definitely, I think that'd be fun. Maybe one or two others, but yeah, it's all a bit of fun. Everyone always takes things the wrong way, but yeah, I don't think anyone could beat me. So I'd love to have a go at that at some point. But yeah, next year is really, really busy. So if we got a chance to do something like that, it'd be fun. Could pump a lot of that money back into my gym. I mean, my gyms are in a youth centre, so I'd love to do that and give back. But yeah, I'm trying to stay in shape. We've got a bit of weight on me at the moment, but it'll be in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. It'll be off.
You and John Fury sounds like an entertaining prospect at hand.
He's
And
a heavyweight as well. He's a
yeah,
heavyweight. Yeah, I'll give away the weight. It's okay. I'll just move around.
move around indeed. An interesting prospect for the future. Going to immediate issues. I want to start on a fight that's close to you, that being Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller here. A lot on the line for Daniel, considering recent performances and people pointing the finger at Daniel. But do you feel that he comes through the test of Jarrell Miller, who is putting it on Daniel outside the ring and looking to do the same in the ring on Saturday night?
I think, firstly, I have to commend the job that Don Charles has done. I mean, I'm looking at Daniel now, and even he looked very confident in the ring with Usyk, and Usyk is the best heavyweight in the world. And obviously that shot was not low. That shot was that was a knockout shot. I mean, there's no debating that. I think Usyk is very clever, used his experience and played that off very well, and can't knock him for that. He found a way to get through it and then come back and dominate the rest of the fight. So fair play to him. But in terms of how Daniel looked, his development, he's looking really good, and he sounds a lot more confident. He sounds like a different person, to be honest with you, since he's been with Don. He's really coming out of his shell, and sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes it's just a different voice or a different approach. And he looks in a very, very good place. Miller, I don't know. Well, I mean, what can you really say? I mean, because of the issues that he had before, his career kind of staggered and then came to a halt. So we don't really know how good he actually is. I mean, he'd been billed as a guy that threw a lot of punches. The last time we had a heavyweight throwing that amount of punches was probably maybe Ika Beabuchi beat David Tua in the 90s. Nobody was really having that kind of output. I mean, Dillion's always had a really good output, but Miller had that was the talking point, was that his output was crazy. Whether he's going to have that same kind of output now will be interesting. And I think Daniel has faced probably the better level of competition after being in there with Usyk. And he's been in there with Joyce. Obviously, Joyce went on to stop Parker. So Daniel's been at a good level. So I'd have him the slight favourite in the fight. It's just that it's the unknown with Miller. I don't know how good he is or how good he could be. Daniel might catch him and he might not be, and Miller might not be able to handle it. Miller might have the work rate to outlast Daniel. It's hard to say. Genuine 50-50 fight, but I'm shading towards Daniel Dubois.
Does Daniel need to show more than just power in the ring in this fight, like we mentioned, with people kind of putting him under the microscope with things, and he's boxed well in other fights, but on this occasion, on this night, does he have to show that he's got more than just that power to set up a victory?
Yeah, I think it takes a long time to build a fighter, believe me, because most of the guys that I have, they've either come with me through the amateurs or I've had them since their debut. So I know what it takes to develop a fight, and there's so many boxes you need to tick. You need to be physical in there. As Ricky Hatton used to say, it's not a tickling contest. There's a lot of things that boxers do in there that are borderline legal. And Daniel needs to show that. I mean, he needs to be physical at times. I know Miller's a very, very heavy guy, But sometimes it's not always about how big you are, it's your technique. Some guys are very good at holding, some guys are very good at pushing you off balance. And that a lot of time comes from your technique or your timing. So I'd like to see Daniel, using angles, letting big shots go, try and get Miller off his L, out of line sometimes and then catch him coming back in. I like to see him doing that. I do think if Daniel catches him clean with that right hand, I think Miller will go. It's just later in the fight, obviously, you have to see how things progress when you get to round 7, 8, and 9, and then you're approaching the championship rounds. That's when you really find out, what a fighter is made of. So, yeah, I'm looking for Daniel to show that in this fight and then kick on from there. And he's a young guy. All these guys, it's interesting. We're talking in the gym all the time. I keep saying to these guys, we've been blessed to have the heavyweights that we've had. The likes of Dillian, Wilder, Joshua, Chisora, Parker. And there's been so many, and they've created a lot of excitement, and we've had a lot of good fights. But they are all coming towards the end, all of them. They really are. So the likes of Daniel, the other kid in America, I can't remember his name. I think he's Big Baby as well. I can't remember his name.
Jared Anderson.
Jared Anderson, another one coming through. So it really is these guys. It's their time. I think Daniel is really leading that charge and really should be looking to try and take over the heavyweight division. I don't know how old Hrgovic is, but again, another good heavyweight. But yeah, this is the fight really that Daniel needs to show how good he actually is. And I think, but with Don heading the charge, I think, yeah, you're going to see it this fight.
Mentioning some of those older heads, Deontay Wilder returns to action this weekend against Joseph Parker. Different sort of scales on the end of it in terms of activity, with Deontay Wilder not being active at all, Joseph Parker having more fights this year heading into this one. Look, a lot of people, when it comes to a Deontay Wilder fight, you're always walking a tightrope, and we've seen Tyson Fury to a degree have success in that first fight, but then change up his style to defeat Deontay Wilder. Can Joseph Parker take anything from those game plans heading into his fight with Wilder to upset the apple cart and get the victory over Wilder, do you feel?
It's a difficult one. I've been catching up on a lot of interviews the last couple of days. And I heard Eddie Hearn mention something about he didn't rate Wilder.
Yeah.
I think skills come in many different ways. I mean, if someone found a way to knock down every single person they boxed, they have a skill set. And I think that needs to be appreciated and highlighted. He actually sets up that right hand very well. I mean, even in I think the rematch with Ortiz, again, he kind of blinded with his left hand and the right hand straight on the pipe. He's done that throughout his career. It's not like he's just throwing it from the hip and he's just landing. Like, he is setting it up. So he is dangerous. And to be honest with you, if you found a way to be great at one thing, okay, fine, that's your great. Then you're great at one thing, but it should be appreciated because he's fought a lot of guys, and some of them are defensive minded. They're not all like vulnerable or open, but he's found a way to open them up. So I'll give him credit. I think the best way to beat Wilder is to back him up, is to put him on the back foot, to put him on his heels. A lot of the 80s and 90s fighters used to do that. The likes of Mike McCallum when he boxed Julian Jackson, get him on the back foot. Julian Jackson, a huge puncher, but Mike McCallum kept the pressure on him, landed a lot of body shots, and eventually got him out of there. But I don't know if Joseph Parker's got that kind of skill set. I don't think he has. I think he's a quick-handed heavyweight, a very good heavyweight. I don't know if he has the same desire as he did before, but again, he's another one that's a lot younger than the likes of Wilder. And I'm not exactly sure how old Fury is, but I know that Joseph Parker is one of the younger guys that have been around a while. So he should really have a lot more in the tank than the Wilders of the world. He should do. But it's just from a technical standpoint, there are certain attributes you have to have. And I think knowing how to fight inside and putting a guy on the back foot is the kind of things that will give Wilder trouble. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I don't think he's going to be disciplined throughout the whole 12 rounds to be able to do that. And I think Wilder will eventually get him out. I'm worried about Wilder too. I mean, 37 is 37. Time waits for no man. When it's your time, it's your time. And, most times you don't know until you get in that ring. And then you just don't have it anymore. That could be the case. It's just a shame a lot of these guys, these big fights they've been waiting so long for, they always seem to come at the tail end of these guys' careers. Whereas we'd prefer to see them like now, like the Tanks and the Devins and Shakurs of the world. It'd be nice to see these guys get in now, but usually that's how it goes down the tail end of these careers. A lot of times, especially in recent times, all these guys are going to get in now. Even talking about Joshua and Wilder, I mean, we're talking like a good 4 or 5 years late, isn't it? Really, but at least we're going to get it, like we did eventually got Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. But yeah, Parker, I think he's going to struggle, but I think he will have success early. But I think by round 5, 6, 7, I sort of see the Ortiz rematch sort of scenario where Parker's doing well with the boxing and then eventually gets caught.
Appreciate the breakdown, and I'm glad you mentioned your concern for Deontay Wilder. I spoke to Kevin Barry, Joe Parker's former coach, and he kind of detailed how Parker might get success against Wilder to defeat him. And he mentioned that he had concerns for Wilder off of the back of the 3 Fury fights and what it might have taken out of Deontay Wilder given the last 2 and how brutal they were. Do you feel that concern in that sort of sense where a fighter might have had something taken out of him because of those brutal affairs, and this being the heavyweight division where the impact of the punches are at their heaviest?
Yeah, physically, yes. You just never know. When your body's done, it's done. But there are some fighters, honestly, that are just mentally very, very strong. Some fighters can get knocked out, come back from a loss, and come back and look better. It affects everybody's psyche is different. It looks like Fury, no matter how hard you put him down, he's going to get up. Dillian seems to always be able to come back from a loss and come back strong, just very mentally strong. Derek Chisora, able to come back from a loss, come back strong. To me, Wilder has that as well. I think I've seen enough in those 3 fights with Fury to tell me that, you know what, he is a fighter. He was in a lot of trouble, especially in that 3rd fight, but he never looked to shy away. He dropped Fury a couple of times and he was always trying, until eventually he got taken out. But he has I always say, for me, I would much prefer a fighter who has the mentality and the heart of a fighter than someone who is just technically gifted. Because the boxing, the style and the technique I can teach, but to me, those other attributes come naturally. To me, you're born with them. It's either you're a warrior and that's just how you live and that's how you are, or you're not. And I think those current heavyweights that we've been lucky enough to have the type of heavyweights to have to give that kind of a commitment. That's why the fights have looked the way they have.
Moving on, mentality and heart are 2 key words that are levied towards Anthony Joshua for good or for worse. The spotlight is always on him, regardless of whatever he does, because of the magnitude of what he brings to the ring. With the trainer change again, short with some media as well too this week. But from a coach's perspective, have you seen what you need to see from a fighter heading into what is billed as a difficult fight in Otto Wallin?
Yeah, I don't understand all the fuss around, Joshua's interviews and the things he says. I don't get it. He's a former 2-time world champion. He's got one of the best resumes out of the top 5, 6 guys. He will go down as such. He's boxed. He's only really needs to box Wilder and Fury really to tick all his boxes. He's been dropped. He's got up. He showed heart. Had 2 fights at Usyk, very stylistically very difficult for him because I always look at 2 guys and when I'm making comparisons, I look at their amateur background. And although Joshua won a gold medal, he wasn't as experienced as amateur to me as Usyk. I think was a lot more. I think he had a much more decorated amateur career in terms of the length of it. I think Joshua's was quite short. And you can see technically, this is why Usyk can live with these heavyweights because he's technically so good. It's just like the likes of Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. They had an unbelievable amateur career, where they won so many different things. And, that's why there was an interview with Lennox Lewis actually a few years ago. And they asked him, who was your hardest opponent? He said, Evander Holyfield. He said, you could just feel technically the difference, like in all the other guys that he had boxed. I see that with Usyk. Usyk just seems to have, he's just gifted in that way. Just gifted.
With that said, and with the trainer change, do you feel that Ben Davison will bring what people are looking out of Anthony Joshua heading into a fight of significance?
again, I rate Ben Davison. I take some guys down to his gym sometimes for sparring. I think he's had a really good career. Very open. And again, it just might be a different voice or a different technique. I mean, I do a hell of a lot of film study when I'm getting ready to prepare my guys for their fights. Some of the boxers I'll sit down and go through some things. Some are not really so keen to do that, and they'd rather I just voice it and send it to them. But I do a lot of breakdown. I know Ben and I think his team do a lot of film study as well, so maybe that might suit Joshua. But again, people have to understand if you're only a casual fighter coming to boxing now, toward the tail end of a lot of boxers' career, they go through a lot of different changes. I mean, Miguel Cotto changed his trainer at least 4 or 5 times coming towards the tail end. De La Hoya, how many times? There's just been so many in history that, they get to that point in their career. Again, Shane Mosley had a lustrous career, unbelievable lightweight, one of the best ever. But, after when he went to light middleweight, then going towards the tail end of his career again, he changed his trainer 2 or 3 times. It's like, I think at that point, accountability comes into it. Things aren't really going the way the boxer wants it to go. And maybe sometimes they're right and maybe they need someone else to come in. Other times, they just need to look at themselves and say, listen, there's certain things that I can't do anymore. Maybe I need to change my approach to how I do things. I mean, the older you get, you do have to change certain training habits. You do have to change the way you fight. Floyd is probably the best example of that. I mean, he wasn't fighting later in his career like he was early when he was fighting multiple combinations. He become a potshot boxer. It made sense because it suited his age. So sometimes you got to change with the times. I mean, even Roy Jones, hands down, unbelievable reflexes. But late in his career, you watch him against Trinidad, he had a high guard. You didn't have the reflex to get out of the way all those punches anymore. So sometimes the boxer has to adapt and be realistic about where they are. I think Joshua is very realistic where he is. I think he's still very driven. I think he does want to be a 3-time world champion. And he knows there's a couple of fights that he still needs to get through. I mean, these guys now, they do want to fight everyone in their era. When you get to a certain point in your career and you've made a certain amount of money, I'm sure it's about, right, I want to fight everybody. I don't want to anyone to say that I wish I'd seen this fight or that fight. It's very important that everybody mix in with each other. So, yeah, I think I've got Joshua a slight favourite. I think Wallin is a very difficult style. Some heavyweights actually go through their whole career and don't ever fight a southpaw. Lennox Lewis never fought a southpaw. So it does happen, but you do get a southpaw every now and then that's very effective. Wallin's effective. Ortiz is effective. In the 90s, Michael Moore was effective. Corey Sanders knocked out Klitschko. So you do get them. And now we've got Usyk. But yeah, I think Wallin, I think I remember Wallin and Joshua actually fighting in the Box Cup years ago in the amateurs, and Joshua won. So that's a good thing to go into a fight knowing you've fought somebody before and you beat them, but then you've got to translate that into the pros. But at this stage where Joshua is now a seasoned pro, I think he's boxed at a higher level, and I think that will show in this fight. And I can see him winning the fight, maybe 7-5. Maybe 7-5. If he stops him, that's going to send shockwaves because Wallin is very durable. I don't know if he's ever been put down before. I know he hasn't been stopped, so it will make a serious statement if he can, but I expect him to win on points.
Xavier, really appreciate the breakdowns of the fights heading into this weekend. Just a final thing, good friends with Dillian. We haven't heard from Dillian in a while. We expecting to hear something from Dillian soon heading into the new year?
Yeah, I think as well, it's an awkward and difficult situation. Obviously, I don't know anything about it at all, but Dillian's is a fighter. He's always gonna come back. He'll find a way to come back. It's just that's just his character. From the time I spent with him, that's one of the things that I appreciate and respected the most about him. Is he's willing to fight everybody, and no matter how hard the times are, he'll find a way through it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him back. I mean, again, he's another one. I'm sure there's 2-3 guys that he doesn't want to end his career without competing against certain names. I'm sure that the Joshua fight, obviously, that was going to be big for him as a rematch. That would have been great. But yeah, I'd love to see a White v Chisora next year. I think that would be a great addition. I mean, if things hadn't happened the way they happened, could have well seen that on this card. Derek and Dillian Guy again for a third time. But yeah, I mean, listen, why these guys are here, appreciate it because, then you got to wait for the next batch to come along. And obviously, it was quite painful after Tyson was rolling through everybody in the 80s. And then boxing went kind of quiet. Then the Klitschko's came, but they didn't have the style of a Tyson. So it was a little, I don't want to say boring, but it wasn't as appealing. And then obviously then Holyfield and Bo came into the picture and then picked it up again. So, appreciate it while is the way it is right now. That's what I'll say.
Very well said with such a card coming through this weekend, Xavier. Pleasure is all mine. Wishing you a very, very prosperous Christmas and New Year. Thank you for speaking to Seconds Out, sir.